Welcome everybody, this is Jason and the name of this week's workshop is Positive Thinking Part 3. This workshop is all about adding accessories to a pose and making pose overlays. So let's have a look. How are overlays different from regular poses? Whereas a regular pose puts a lock on the entire skeleton, an overlay, it only puts that lock on selected joints. So for example, here, Brenna is holding a shotgun. So the lock is only on the shoulders, the clavicle joints, all the way down to the fingers. She can move her lower torso freely. How do you create an overlay? You start with a regular animation template. And if you're making your overlay with an accessory, you would need to import the accessory and assign that to a joint first. Then you go into animation mode, set the keyframe, delete the original keyframe, and then operate on selected joints only. But we will see that when we jump into the practical part. So to get started, if we're making an overlay with an accessory, we first need to build an accessory template. So in this example, I opened the mesh part of the accessory. I went into the GMDC in the resource tree, select the one in the resource list. Then we go into the plugin and we click on that export button. And in this case, because the lens isn't really anything, we could just export the frame, but in most cases, you just want to export everything. Then we open Milkshape and we open one of the animation templates. I've provided those in the workshop post. We select File, Import Wavefront Object, and we just import the accessory that we recently exported. So in this example, we can see that the best place to assign this accessory is obviously the right hand. So what we do, we go to the joint hierarchy, we find right hand in the list and we double click it. Then we hold down Shift, we go to the groups tab and we select the frame and lens groups. Once those are selected, they should light up as red. And then we move back to the joints tab and we click on that assign button. What that's going to do, that's going to basically glue that object to that selected joint. So now when we enter into animation mode, any movement that we make on that joint or any of the joints above it in the hierarchy, the object will move with it. So we can create an accurate overlay. Now, if you're going to make multiple overlays with this template, we want to go ahead and save that as an MSD just so that we have a base to work from. Now, to articulate the actual overlay, we built the template. Now we want to make an overlay that's based on it. So we enter animation mode. Then we go animate and we uncheck operate on selected joints only. Then we go set keyframe. Then we go delete keyframe. So after it turns yellow, we just delete that keyframe and the skeleton should be blue once again. Then we recheck operate on selected joints only. What that's going to do, that's going to set up the template so that we can create an overlay where it's only going to lock the animation skeleton on the joints that we actually move. So now we go back in, we articulate our overlay. And what I like to do, I rotate all of the joints. For example, even though I don't really need the clavicles, the sim could possibly move the clavicle joint when he enters idle, and I don't want that. I want those to remain locked. So we select the clavicle and we can go back to the modeling tab and rotate it just a tiny bit, and that's going to lock it. Then when you're finished, go to animate set keyframe. And in this example, you can see that only the joints from spine 1 up to the tips of the fingers are locked. Everything else, the sim can move freely. They can turn their head, they can move their legs. It's only those joints that are going to be locked in that position. Export as an anim, and we just build the pose as we normally would. Let's put it into practice. So I've provided these two accessory meshes. They are actually instruments for an upcoming project that I'm working on. So we go open, and there we go to our project folder, to positive thinking. So we've got electrobasoon and we've got grim guitar. We're looking for the mesh files. So let's start with electrobasoon. We select the GMDC here in the resource tree, once again in the resource list. And I don't need the lens component. The lens component is just a placeholder. So we preview that frame, and that's kind of what we're dealing with. So we go export, and I've already got my OBJ files, but I'm just going to save over that as an example, just so that we understand where we're coming from. We save right over that. Then I go File, Open, Grim Guitar. And once again, we don't really need the lens. We're just saving the frame. So we just export, Grim Guitar. And that will give us the templates that we need. Now in Milkshape, we go File, Open, and go to our project folder. Let's open that female animation base. And I don't want color groups, and I don't want wireframe overlay, just so that we can see what's happening clearly. So first, we select none, then File, Import, Wavefront OBJ, and let's start with the electrobassoon. So we grab the electrobassoon, just like that. I'll make that a bit bigger so we can see what's going on. So that is obviously intended to be a right-hand accessory. We go to our Joints tab. We find right hand. So we've got right hand here. We just double click on that joint. That's going to make it green. Then we hold Shift. We hop over to our Groups tab. We select Frame. Once you select Frame, the entire group should light up as red. We go back to our Joints tab. We click Assign. And then let's select none once again. Okay, so at this point, we should probably save this if we want to go back and edit it later. So we go File, Save As, and of course, it's never in the right place. It looks more like a sax than a bassoon almost, you know? I found a whole set of Star Wars instruments on Sketchfab. And I just built this one accessory for the workshop. So before we actually enter animation, or no, sorry, we need to enter animation mode. So we click the Anim button in the lower right. Then we go Animate, uncheck Operate on selected joints only. Animate, set keyframe. Animate, delete keyframe, and then once again, animate, operate on selected joints only. So we make sure that that is checked. Okay, now that we've got that set up, let's go ahead and articulate a pose. So we go to our joints tab. Let's start with right upper arm because that's a logical place to start. Model tab, rotate, and we make sure that that's set on local. We just rotate that down. We're just kind of roughing it in to start off with. That's close, but we need to kind of fine tune that a bit. Hey, roll that upper arm in a little bit. And we need to mess around with the hand. That mouthpiece is a little bit high. And it's not quite centered, so. Just kind of get that centered, and then we need to roll the right upper arm back. And then maybe hook the right hand back a little bit. No, that's not it. It's a little bit fiddly. Sometimes you just have to. Yeah, I just want that mouthpiece so it hits about the center of the lip. Okay, and I think that's as good as it gets. So here, we just need to focus on the smaller joints. So we go right hand, or no, we go right thumb. Yeah, no, we don't want to do that. We just want to kind of open it a bit wider. Maybe roll it in. Yeah, that needs to go back some. And then we just bend in the smaller thumb joints. Thumbs are a pain because they never appear correctly. We just want to close thumb 1 and thumb 2 a bit. Now, we want these fingers to hit the keys. So we just kind of bend that in. And then bend in index 1. Okay, so that's too tight. So index 0 needs to come back. Then we need to bend index 1 a little bit sharper. We have to kind of move the 3D viewport so we got a better view of what we're doing. Then mid 0. And then mid 1, we just want to bend it so it's kind of resting on the key. And then pinky 0. Same thing. We just want that to kind of rest on that key there. Okay. Right hand looks pretty good. Let's move on to the left arm. So we start with the left upper arm. And where's a good spot for this? I don't see really where the other arm is supposed to hit. There aren't any more keys. So we're just going to kind of rough it in. Now, I guess this hand is supposed to grip the body of the instrument or something because I don't see a better place where it can rest. Okay, we just get a rough approximation. Now we need to roll that thumb back. And that upper arm needs to come way down. See, that thumb is clipping in there. We need to move the upper arm back even more, which is kind of strange. But then we need to open that thumb zero a lot wider because that's a big instrument. And I think the zero joints are, yeah, the zero joints are flush to the bassoon. So, whoa, we just need to curl those, the one joints, the mid one, the index one, and the pinky one, just until you've got a good grip. Yeah, I mean, you can assign an accessory to multiple joints. But for example, this one, because it's, because we're articulating an overlay for it, it kind of needs to, it kind of needs to be assigned 100% to the right hand. Okay, so we've got it roughed in. What we do now, animate, set keyframe. And that's going to give you kind of a rough idea of how the overlay looks. But what I don't love here, we've got a lot of joints that haven't been moved. What we kind of need to do, or what I like to do, let's start with spine 2, for example. We'll go to the model tab, we go to rotate, and we're just going to rotate it a teeny tiny bit on the X. We rotate, and then do the right clavicle, right bicep, and then right wrist. And I think everything else on the right hand has been kind of, yeah. So I want to get those fingers on the keys a little bit better. So let's scoot that in. Now let's repeat that on the left arm. So we start with the left clavicle. We rotate just a tiny bit. The left bicep. The left wrist. And then on the left hand, because I didn't rotate the zero joints on the fingers at all, I'm going to go ahead and do index 0, mid 0, and pinky 0. I'm just going to rotate those a tiny bit so that when I set the keyframe, it locks those joints as well. Then we go animate, set keyframe. Now you can see that's locked in from basically from spine 0, or sorry, from spine 2 all the way down to the fingers. So let's say we want, because this is, that mouthpiece should always be hitting her like the center of the lips. Let's say we want to lock the neck and the head as well. So we just give the head and the neck just a tiny little rotate. And then with that keyframe. So when she strikes this overlay, everything from spine 2 up is just going to be locked. And then she can move the lower torso freely. So now we go animate, set keyframe. And I'm just going to call this something clever like electrobasoon overlay. And as a final step, let's export that. File export as an ANIM. Just like that. We don't mess with anything here. We keep it as a body animation and we just export. Let's do the male animation overlay this time. We exit anim mode. We select none. Then we import wavefront and do that grim guitar. And once again, this is a right hand pose. So we select our right hand. Then we go to the groups tab. We select the frame group. Go back to the joints tab and we assign. Now, select none. We enter animation mode. Animate. Uncheck operate on selected joints only. Animate. Set keyframe. Animate. Delete keyframe. And finally, recheck operate on selected joints only. Now we're ready to, well, let's save the template first. Call this grim guitar template. Okay, and just as we did before, that's just some fine tuning. Okay, so we have the pose roughed in. Now we go animate, set keyframe. And as you can see, it's only going to lock the joints that you actually moved. We need to go back, starting with spine 2, and just give these little mini rotations so that those joints lock as well. Go to right clavicle. We do right bicep. Then we do right wrist. And then we do I think right is good. Left clavicle. Left bicep. And left wrist. And I think that's everything. Now, once again, animate, set keyframe, and that just locks everything in from spine 2 down. That looks pretty good. So I'm going to save. Yes, grim guitar overlay. And let's export the anim. Let's go ahead and add those to the pose box. Yes. It's kind of tedious. Posing is not easy. Not gonna lie about that. So we open our test pose box. This is the same test pose box that I've used for the last two workshops. And if you already have existing ANIMs, the way that I like to do it, I just go to ANIM in the resource tree, select one of the ANIMs in resource list, right click and clone. Then we just replace, we right click, we replace with one of the overlays. Clone, replace, just like that. Then tools, object tools, fix integrity. Don't click the link, just click OK. If you click on the link, it will rename all of your poses in the STR. Go to, I need my trusty notepad. What I'm going to do here, I just copy everything before the underscore. I paste it here. Probably not necessary with just two overlays, but usually when I build pose boxes, I'll build 20 or 30 poses at a time. So I just like this workflow. Then we go to the STR in the resource tree, and we want ANIM's adult. That's instance number 81 in the resource list. We go down to where the first placeholder appears. Electrobasoon overlay. No, I did that wrong. I need the next line down. So we've got electrobasoon overlay and grim guitar overlay. We commit that. We can go ahead and save. Now, moving on to the behave. We sort by instance descending. Then we're going to go ahead and look at test pose 5. So I'm going to call this electrobasoon overlay. So we just rename the file name. We select this second command line here, and we open the box. Now, let's mess with this a little bit. What you can do, for example, if I had a left-hand guitar mesh and I wanted to use this same overlay, I could just do this. I could check flipped. What if I want this overlay to take priority over other animations? So say they're in a standing pose, but I want the upper torso, the guitar, to be locked over that. Let's make this high. Let's change this priority to high. And then, yep, everything else looks good. So I'm just going to go OK. Commit electrobasoon. And we rename grim guitar. We just rename that in the file name. And let's do the same. Let's select this. Let's change the priority to high. And we'll leave everything else the way that it is. We can commit that. And then let's double check, stop all poses. Okay, we just need to make sure that these two are added to the queue. And another thing about this, oh, I don't have the plugin for this, but so if this is mirrored and you only want to stop the mirrored pose, you would change this both true and false, or both normal and flipped anims. That would be false, and then flip flag will be true if you only wanted to stop it at only the mirrored pose. But we're fine for now. Okay, So we've got that. Now we select the T-task in the resource tree. Once again, in the resource list. And we've got the two strings from last week here. I'm going to add a sub-level. So I go overlay, .. electrobasoon. I'm a horrible speller. And then let's change the second one to Grim Guitar. So we just add those two strings, give that a quick save. Then we go to our T-tab. We select the T-tab here, select the T-tab once again in the resource list. Let's make this a bit larger. And we go down to our last post, post 7. Then we click add. That's, why am I not seeing it? It didn't add. Okay, just add 2 lines to the T-tab. And I don't want these overlays for teens because it's an adult accessory. So change the string to 8 and change the behave to 1008. Then this second line that we added, we change the string to 9 and we change the behave to 1009. Give that a quick commit. And because it is my posebox, what I like to do, well, that's not right. We grab that new line and I'm going to go ahead and move that up above the face overlays. That changes the order that it appears in the menu. That's the reason that I do that. So I just want these to come before face overlay. Give that a quick commit, save, and now we're ready to test. Test the poses. So we start with Abby. We go overlay, electrobasoon. And then you would probably have to adjust the thumb a little bit because the thumb is off, but it looks okay. And then Chris, we go overlay, Grim Guitar, and the left hand looks good, but I would probably mess with the right hand a little. Overall, not horrible, but yeah, I would, if they were mine, I would probably go back and tinker with them. And then to make it look like she's really wailing on this instrument, you could probably give her face overlay. Like kiss and then face overlay basic. Like part lips maybe. Yeah, see that looks like almost like she's playing the instrument. Oh, and regarding priority, let me find How about a modeling pose box? This one's good, just a basic stance. So this pose, if you're, or the overlay, the electrobasoon overlay, if you remember, we set that at high priority. I'm just going to do something with low priority, like arm side. This is medium priority, sorry. So you can see, because this is high priority, it doesn't split the difference. These remain locked and only her lower torso is moving. And that's it. That is how you create overlays instead of full body poses.
I have a question. So
Yes.
let's say you lock like a piece you didn't mean to lock. How do you unlock it? After you do the set keyframe, delete keyframe, set keyframe, but
Well, you could go back and manually edit the ANIM, but that's a little bit more advanced. I don't cover that in these workshops.
okay.
The only other option would be to, for example, you save the template. You would just have to go back and re-articulate it.
Okay.
Yeah, William might have a question. Rach, getting back to your question, yes, you can assign an accessory to multiple joints. For example, my Ghostbusters backpacks, the wand part, that is assigned to the hand, and the backpack is assigned to, I believe, spine 2.
Oh, okay.
And then I think the straps go to their shoulders and whatnot. But yes, an accessory is just, it's pretty much like a clothing mesh. It can support multiple joints.
So the electrobasoon, at some point you're going to have to find that object in your catalog and place it into the Sim's right hand.
It's a body shop accessory.
Yeah. Is it an object that snaps into the hand, or is it an accessory that gets applied like earrings, or?
It's an accessory. So these, I created them as body shop accessories. I mean, there's an option to do both. For example, what's a good example? If you're familiar with a light in the darkness, those are objects that snap into the Sim's hand, and then the overlay, like the arm where they're holding up the lantern, that kind of locks into place. But I've done both. I've done object accessories and I've done body shop. I think body shop, they're easier to do because you know what you're getting. Like, it's assigned to one specific joint and you can lock the pose into place.
No, it's just to my view that I'd have to go into a mirror and apply an accessory, find it, and then pull up a pose box and go pose. I'm basically lazy. I'd like to pull up a pose box and go pose electrobasoon, and the bassoon just appears, and then when I clear the pose, the bassoon vanishes. Just lazy.
No. I'm with you. I am 100% with you on that. I will, hold up. I will pop open an example of my latest project. So if you're familiar with Witchfinder General at all, so the way that this works, these are all body shop accessories.
Yep.
But what's happening, there's, I used the the overlay / accessory box template. So the sim can actually add, for example, they want the cup hilt rapier, or they want the what is it, the swept hilt rapier. They can add that to either the left or right hand, and then they can add just the overlay, or they can actually do. Well, there are different types of overlays, but for example, there's an overlay for the lower body for the fencing stances, and then there's an overlay for the upper body. It just locks it from spine 0 up.
Yeah, I can see that for swords, because
yeah,
it's because you're going to have different.
But yeah, it's handy for how can I explain it? Because this is all in one box. So all of the accessories and all of the overlays are included in one box. You're not.
But all that finger placement for the bassoon is only relevant to the bassoon. You couldn't apply it to the guitar, so there's no point adding the accessory of a guitar and then putting them in the bassoon pose.
Yeah.
So, to my mind, you could just, pose this sim with a bassoon, and you get the bassoon and the pose. I shall investigate.